Hello and welcome inside the Chris Evans Podcast, a part of Second Banana Media. Joined once again by the LAJ head coach, Breck Clark. Coach, appreciate you stopping by. And
yeah, of course.
Good time to be a LAJ right now.
Yeah, we're doing good. We're on a roll, so I'm excited.
10-5 overall, 7-3 against 5A schools. I think you've won 7 of your last 10 matchups, and it's really good to get busy here. But a couple weeks ago, you were really busy with the Hera tournament.
Correct.
And another game on that Tuesday night. And so you got all 3 tournaments in this year with all 3 with the trophy at the end.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
And, we won the Noble tournament, and that was a tough tournament to win.
Yeah.
So, I think winning that kind of proves to them that they can play with these people, and they need that type of energy and confidence going into playoffs.
And you won 2 out of 3 games at Kingfisher. The one loss was against a Hera team, and of course you follow girls basketball. Hera is a really good ball club, but you got to like that team's performance in terms because regionals will be coming up here later this month, and just gives you the atmosphere of a regional atmosphere.
Yeah, so the tournaments are good because, just like playoffs, you're going to play 3 games in a row. And the stakes are a little bit higher because it's either a single elimination or double elimination. Either way, your season might be over. So that added pressure is on as well. So if we can at least get that exposure to those 3 games in a row type atmosphere, the more we get to do that, the better. So.
And good news, you finally got to play a game with the boys on the same night inside the high school gymnasium. You guys took on Noble, won that game, and what a performance by a junior guard.
I know, yeah. Mariah.
25 points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that all season. Her personality is very reserved. She works so hard.
Yeah.
But she's very, very quiet. So I'm like, hey, listen, Angel does her thing, and we've got our shooters and everything. If you play your role well, but if you play that plus be a scoring threat, we're going to be unstoppable. And she's really stepped up to that. I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, 25 points. It shows you that if she goes out and works, that she can be put on a performance like that.
Yeah, and her points came off of steals, rebounds, like all the little things she just does right. So she's a very good example of what a basketball player should look like.
And what an atmosphere. We bragged and rag on the wrestling duel attendance, but for the first one combined, it was homecoming, but it was still packed. A great crowd.
Yeah, it was packed. I was actually pretty surprised.
I was too.
That was so exciting to see that the community is excited about it. We played well in front of them, so hopefully that'll kind of encourage them to come back. So that was fun. We
were scheduled to play Piedmont. Weather got that one postponed, be made up probably at a later date. So we've lost 2 games to weather this year with Piedmont and Ponca City, but looking to add them back to the schedule. Of course, we have one more regular season game with Piedmont scheduled as well.
Yeah, so the ice storms have been crazy. So we've kind of been on a weird schedule. It's going to put us at 3 or 4 games a week in the next 2 weeks, which is good and bad because bad, we're going to be very tired. We got to make sure we're doing everything smart, stretching, eating right. But at the same time, it gives you that playoff atmosphere again. So it's, you kind of have to look at the bright sides too. So I'm hoping we can get all those games rescheduled and play them and, get everything we need to do.
And speaking of playoffs, this is the week we have one more game with Carl Albert on Friday, and then that puts all the games into the book officially, where coaches will vote one last time for playoff regional setting. Of course, we talked about this conference year in, year out.
Yes.
It looks like again maybe 3 of the 4 teams in this conference will be hosting once again this year on the west side.
Yeah, so it's good for our conference, but at the same time you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, this next ranking is the last one, and it'll count towards playoffs. Right now, we're in a pretty good spot. I believe we're ranked 7th on the west side. So if we can keep that, or even, if we play well on Friday, we can move up a spot or 2. That would just put us in a really good position for playoffs.
Yeah, it's, right now, Carl Albert 1, Piedmont 2, El Reno 3, Lawton MacArthur 4, who'd be hosting that spot. And I think there's a chance with a good performance against Carl Albert, could move up to maybe that 6th spot. Now, whether you play Piedmont or El Reno on the road for a regional, there's matchups and all that good stuff. It's still going to be tough with this conference and regional play.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. The good thing about it is if we can get past that first game, it's double elimination.
Yeah.
So, I think we have a good chance to beat anybody, as anybody else does.
Yeah.
However, if we do slip up after that first game, at least we're high enough to where we don't have to play 2 powerhouses now. We have to play a powerhouse and a very good team as opposed to, having 2 of those just unbelievable teams in one spot. So that helps a lot too.
And the good thing about this conference is you'll be ready for the Piedmonts, the Carlberts, and El Renos, and you've already played Lott MacArthur already at the beginning of the season. So no matter where you may go for the playoffs, it will not be a surprise.
Yes, so at least we know what we're getting into. We know it's going to be tough, but at least we're not going to get slapped in the face. Hopefully not get slapped in the face with it. So it's exciting. 15
games into your first year. How's it going?
It's going really good. It's going a lot better than I expected it to be. I don't know if I didn't give myself enough credit or Guthrie or what, but my mentality going into it was, okay, just get through it, make it a little bit better than it was last season. And the girls have just exceeded any and all expectations that I had, and I think the community as well. So that's exciting for them.
So what's it like? I mean, you're calling it all the inbounds plays. You're calling all the traps. You're doing it. I mean, you've coached many times before, not as an assistant, but as a head coach at other places. But what's that smooth, easygoing? Haven't noticed?
I mean, it's pretty smooth. I like it.
Yeah.
They're very coachable.
Yeah.
And we like to play fast, and I've always loved to play fast, and we have those tools to do that. So sometimes it's better for me to say, hey, just go out there and do your thing. Do what you need to do rather than try to take them step by step. Because at the end of the day, I want them to play basketball. I don't want them to be robots.
Right.
And I think they've really found that middle ground of, okay, I need to do what I need to do, but I also, sometimes reel it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So
talk about, and of course, you were at Orlando for 3 years before coming to Guthrie this season. The coaching in this conference is unbelievable. Coach Eric Carr at Piedmont, Coach Richie at Carlbert, Jennifer Douglas at El Reno, Wendy Wells at Shawnee. Noble's got a great young coach. I mean, just talk about game in and game out coaching against these people.
It's intimidating for sure.
Yeah.
Coming in as a first-year head coach, you always worry about when you draw something up, what are they going to do to counter that?
Yeah.
Am I going to have a counter for the counter? How did they scout us? What are they going to do? And a lot of sometimes when teams are evenly matched, it comes down to coaching or when the game is close. So those have been intimidating because they are extremely good coaches, and a lot of them have been there for a while, and they know the ins and outs of our conference. But on the other side, they've all been very helpful as well. I reach out to Jennifer a lot, and she always answers my questions. They'll all come up and talk to me when we play games and kind of tell me, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, all that stuff. So they've been helpful as well. So
when you went up against your former team, El Reno, Jennifer, did they have the same plays? Did they change up the terminology? Or did you have to change it up a little bit?
They had the same plays, but I'm 90% sure they changed the terminology.
Okay, there you go.
I think she called out box 2 or something, and then they ran like box 1. I was like, oh my gosh. But other than that, it was pretty good, so.
How was that reunion going back to El Reno?
It was good. I liked it.
Yeah. I watched the handshake line, and I saw the hugs, and I bet that was pretty cool after the game.
Right. It was cool. I had a lot of good relationships with the people in El Reno. They're great people. It's a great community. So going back there, I was kind of unsure of how it would go, because we're – that night we're rivals, but we're also, we have those relationships. But I think, they welcomed me back with open arms, and they were all super proud and excited for me and my team. So that was, nice to see.
You've seen El Reno, you've seen Lott MacArthur on the floor, getting ready to play Carl Albert on Friday. You were getting ready for Piedmont on Tuesday. What does Piedmont and Carl Albert present that you got to prepare for, your team's got to prepare for?
So both teams are pretty guard heavy. So that can be good and bad for us. We struggle against post play a lot.
Yeah.
We don't really have any bigs.
Right.
So the good thing is I think we can match up. The bad news is it's going to be a battle of the guards.
Yeah.
So there's no way to, go to their strengths and weaknesses because their strength and weaknesses is ours. The difference is they've been doing it longer than us. So we're going to see. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Okay, I got to talk a little bit. I took my game notes during the Noble game, and right here, 1 o'clock, held the ball at the end of the second quarter, and in 1 minute at the end of the third quarter, held the ball. You were up. It was actually, I think, tied at the end of the quarter, maybe at first quarter. But the shot clock has been a conversation.
Yes.
And you are the perfect person to ask this question because you played at Dell, small ball. You're coaching at El Reno, now at Guthrie. You played JUCO basketball in Enid. You played Division I basketball down at UTA. Mm-hmm. Shot clock. I think the big schools won it. The small schools don't. And when they took the polls out, the OSA took the questionnaire out tell us about shot clock. Yay, nay?
So I can see the argument for both sides.
Okay.
I really can. For me personally, transitioning from not having a shot clock in high school to having one in college was not that big of a difference, just because, 35 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever, is longer than people think it is. There's very few possessions, that we have that. So I don't think that was a big deal. I do think it would kind of upgrade and forward the game of basketball as a whole, as Oklahoma, kind of catch us up to where maybe we're lacking in spots. But, I use not having a shot clock to my advantage.
Absolutely.
I'm going to keep using it just because, people like to sit in that zone against us because we have those fast guards.
Right.
So I'm not going to make my girls dribble into the land of trees.
Yeah.
They'll come out and guard us,
And they let you. I mean, that's the argument is that, if you can do it, the other team's going to let you do it, then if that's what you want to do, then that's part of the strategy, the in-game strategy, which that's one of many things you have to do in games with adjustments.
Right. And, it keeps us out of foul trouble.
Yeah.
We're not very deep right now, so it kind of gives them a break. So, and I'm not about holding. Some teams hold it for like a whole quarter. I'm not about that, but maybe 2 minutes at the end of the game, I'll use that. So I can see both sides.
I haven't really seen a whole lot of that in 5A, 6A needed for the shot clock. Now, there's times at state tournaments at the Big House. I mean, teams will hold on their hip for like 4 minutes, and you're like, I mean, when we produce a lot of games, so when you're doing 8 games a day, you're like, okay, this will get us back on schedule, back on time. But I just couldn't imagine, as a coach, letting someone do that for 4 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
Now, if you're the underdog and you're up by 4, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to look at that, but it was just, it's basketball. Let's play.
Right. Exactly. Holding for that long is crazy. The object is to win. So, it's one of those things where you got to do what you got to do to win. And if you're clearly outmatched and you're up by 6, that might be your best bet. But I can see how that's frustrating to people who want the game to progress.
Yeah, I think that one time it would, I said earlier, 5A, 6A, you really can't tell the difference. But I think if you're in a 4-point game with a minute and a half, it comes into maybe a factor a little bit when you're thinking 2-for-1s and fouling, all that good stuff. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll eventually be here.
It will. I think it will too. It's going to come regardless, whether it's in 2 years, 3 years, whatever, but it's coming to Oklahoma. So
Guthrie travels Carl Albert Friday, number 1 team, 5A, right?
Correct. Yep, on the west side. So
got beat by Piedmont though.
They did.
Piedmont got them.
It was an intense game. They won by 1. It was just back and forth. They play pretty similar. I think Carl Albert might have a little bit more size. Both of them are pretty guard dominant. So it was just kind of a battle of, who's ahead when the shot clock goes or when the time goes off.
Yeah,
so.
I saw Coach Carr, from Piedmont's head coach, Facebook win with Carl Albert, and they were pretty pumped, rightfully so. So
yeah, it's a big win. It's good.
Yeah,
for them.
it is good. We need to get Coach Carr and the Wildcats into 6A, and we can breathe a little bit better.
Exactly. I'll just move on up.
Move on up. Coach, we appreciate you stopping by. Best of luck against Carl Albert. And yes, it's on the road again, but it looks like maybe 5 home games in a row. Piedmont reschedule might mix up a little bit there, but Ponca City coming back. So a good stretch of games coming up in February.
Yep, we have a lot of home games, and then, Carl Albert's not too far away. So if you want to make that drive, it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Lady J head coach Breck Clark, we invite you out to Carl Albert on Friday. Then a whole bunch of great games inside the Guthrie High School Gymnasium beginning next week. That'll do it here. We'll talk to you next time here on the Chris Evans Podcast.